Worked in all the fields of engineering. Basically, I am a mechanical engineer. I have done MBA, and recently I have also passed LLB. I am a patent agent. I have been working with Indian companies as well as multinationals, right from the drafting stage to prosecution to filing, not only in India but outside India. We are experienced to prosecute sitting in India, helping our associates to formulate the strategy, to work with them. So we also understand what is necessary to be done for prosecution outside India. And definitely hardcore, we are Indian patent agent. With this background, I'll speak about drafting. I think the subject is so vast that you can go on speaking for hours, but I will divide my slides into three. No strategy can be started without stating the objectives, and the objectives has to be stated by the client, because the strategy, drafting strategy, particularly for international filing, has to be aligned to the goals of the client. Then we must know, having stated these goals, what are the threats and should emerge out. In the context of the goals and threats, I would have done the SWOT analysis, but I am only touching one part of the SWOT, and that is threats, and then how your strategy should work out. I think the goals are very clear, very generic, but some differentiation from client to client happens, and particularly every client would like to see their patent from enforceability, and when you go for enforcement, it should withstand the validity or invalidity attack. If it cannot stand, then your patent is useless, and that is the core value a patent should have. Second, having stated in the order, the second value the patent should have is that it should cover length and breadth of the invention. Then only it will have the maximum value. When it comes to the client also is investing in the IP protection with certain drivers, and those drivers are stated or practiced by the clients in terms of whether they would like to use this IP for defensive or offensive purpose. Is it for exclusivity or for monetization? What are their important markets where they would like to protect and leverage? And how do we achieve this at a lower cost? The last part sometimes takes predominance over the other strategic intent. Now, there has to be realization, and I would like to say it particularly from the practical experience. The name of the game is the quality of drafting. Why? You live by what you draft, you die by what you draft. Once you have drafted, the arrow is out of your armor, and therefore, whatever you would like to invest, it is worth investing at the time of drafting. It is the first and the last chance. With this realization, we go to the threats. And I am touching the threats only, particularly from the point of view of India, because this has to be done from the major markets. I have stated that in terms of goals, the client must identify what are their major markets. Because we are drafting, and at the time of drafting, you cannot be drafting different for different markets, but you will at least make sure that for major markets, it survives the attack of invalidity. And from that point of view, I have taken an example of India, and I am sure my colleagues will cover other states. But one of the part is that when you go for infringement suit or when you go for enforcement, the defense is always available for invalidity. So that is what you have to first cross the border. Somebody said earlier that you should go to the diligence process. The other parts are common, the novelty, what are considered as prior arts. The only distinguishing factor in India, as far as prior arts are concerned, it is traditional knowledge. I think as compared to the other countries where only the published knowledge is considered as prior arts, in our case it is traditional knowledge. So I am touching on the differences. In terms of inventive step, generally the law of other states or other countries, they focus on non-obviousness. We have one more bar. It should not be only non-obviousness, it is also technical advance or economic significance. Then there is section 3. There is a whole lot of excluded subject matters like computer program per se, business method complete bar, as far as your mathematical methods, algorithms, complete bars, mental acts, complete bars. Any arrangement or rearrangement, not any, mere, not allowed. Mere admixture, not allowed. So there is a whole lot of excluded subject matters which are also covered in other jurisdictions. EPO has in the part of the statutory provisions. In the US, it is part of the judiciary creation. Then, who is the person skilled in the art? Because he is a very important animal in deciding what is written there and how it is to be understood. FOSITA is what is the acronym in USA. Our IPAB has coined a new word, PSITA. PSITA stands for person skilled in the art. It is not ordinary skilled, it is skilled. So the bar for inventive step is not from the point of view of ordinary skilled, but skilled, a little higher. But when you read the provisions for enablement, for support, the person is not no more PSITA. The bar is not higher, the bar is lower. It is person having average skill. It is not skilled. It is an average skilled, average knowledge in the art. And that bar is much lower. So it has to be seen from that perspective, that how you write it, the enablement or the provision, the support should be sufficient for the person who is average skilled and average knowledge. Enablement and support, that requirement, in judiciary it has not been tested enough, but in time to come definitely it will evolve. Ambiguous claims and claims without support, again, is a reason for revocation. Willful non-compliance to Section 8, we heard in the morning, Section 8 has gone through iteration. Earlier non-compliance, whether willful or not willful, was considered as the reason for revocation. Now the judiciary has come to the recognition that if it is willful, if you are likely to gain anything from hiding the Section 8 requirement, then they will take it a serious non-compliance issue. Then, if you have amended your claims or description by fraud, that also can be a reason for revocation. And the last is non-compliance to Section 6 provision, which means that as per Section 6, only the inventor can apply. If inventor is not applying, the assignee of the inventor should apply. So there is a proof of right requirement. And if it is found that you have not complied with Section 6, I am not saying that you have not supplied the proof of right, but anybody other than the rightful owner, either inventor or his assignee, has filed it, then it is a single reason for revocation. Some of these have a way out to salvage the situation, and this way out is primarily focused through amendment provisions. And our amendment provisions, as per 57, 58 and 59 sections, which are covered under there, are very, very limited. In India, I can talk about EP as well as US, but I think there are more competent people to talk about it, and I will leave it to them. I'm just touch basing what are the important parameters that should be touched, and these are basically you can only amend in case you have novelty or inventive step related objections by way of disclaimer, corrections or explanation. Now these are very important to understand. In India, what you have not claimed, you cannot claim again. So if there is any amendment has to be done, that amendment must be within the scope of what you have filed. As filed claims, That is why somewhere I have underlined it. You can only amend with reference to as filed claims, and that amendment should be narrowing down. It is not overlapping with reference to the earlier, but the circle, if it was earlier 1 meter diameter, it can be 0.75 diameter. It cannot cut the earlier circle. So the circle may be small, but it should not cut the earlier circle. That is the meaning of disclaimer, and this is what the controllers are practicing. Everybody should understand this. Corrections, if there are any patent corrections, you are allowed to make it, or if something is very obvious for any person to understand, you can add it by way of explanation. So these are the three things that you can do it. No new independent or dependent claims are to be added. So whatever claims you have written, you can only do the jugglery what you have written as claims. You cannot add. You can modify the existing claims, but you cannot add new claims. Then any amendment, if you make it to the independent or dependent claim, it should satisfy inventive step as well as novelty, and amendments can be made at any stage, pre-grant, post-grant, until the patent is expired. It is unlike US, where there is a limited period under which you can do it, and there the threat is much more that if you are not amended within a time, there is no chance in the infringement litigation that you can amend it. The patent goes for a toss. So in India, that is a positive aspect, I would say. Now, having learned this, we should evolve the strategy. It is very important that we should know the goals. We should also know what are the threats. 2 minutes, okay. Then first understand what are the drivers of the client, as I talked to you, major markets, and ROI, return on investment metrics. What is it that he is expecting it? Then invalidity attacks, understanding, remedies and limitations, amendments and claims, and understand the judiciary, how they are evolving, what are the normal method of interpretations. Like in the US, the interpretations are more formal. In the UK and EPO, it's more related to based on the purposive constructions, and India also follows more or less the purposive constructions, which I think is much better, so they do not go as much as in the semantics. Now, the basics is, having decided what are the major market, I think one should decide which is the major market for which you should draft. If my client has US as a major market, then I must know all the threats related to the US major market, that what I can do and what is the way out. I must fully understand before starting anything, and the baseline draft should be made for the US if the US is a major market. If India is a major market, I must also align my practices first to India and then modify wherever it is necessary, and the modification should be kept minimal so that your cost is also minimized. Then second is that for drafting it is necessary that whosoever drafts, he should have 3 skills. One, research the subject. And I am not saying research the subject just to understand the subject, but feel the subject matter. Only the person who feels the subject matter can write a good draft. Otherwise, the draft is written for the sake of writing it. That is the first and foremost requirement. Writing skill comes the second, and then comes the legal skills. I think these are the 3 skills that are necessary for drafting. Getting such people are more difficult. We have to train them. The training takes 3 to 4 years before a person can really qualify for independent writing. Use provisions of amendment in major markets in formulating drafting strategy. So drafting strategy should be based on what are the amendment possible. Then you should also have, when you have drafting strategy, I am not going in too much details, I am just giving overview. Claim strategy should also be in place, both for serving the strategic purpose, that is how to increase your value. At the same time, you should have provision for surviving the attacks. So broad scope with respect to known prior arts, of course. You should have claims with different scopes, not only dependent claims, but independent claims. And you should cover the value chain of the client. Dependent claims you should normally use for differentiation or for inventive states. We should not add too many independent claims, otherwise the cost in the EP is very high. US also is very high. India also it is very high. Sorry, it's not that high, but it costs. Description strategy. I would suggest that irrespective of where, for which major market you do it, it is better to provide more details than limit the details. Once you have decided to file a patent, disclose as much as you know, because you have decided not to keep this as a trade secret. This will help you in surviving the patents. It will come a ready tool for you for amendments. Provide more embodiments as much as possible. In the claim, first draft the claim, and whatever claims has nouns and verbs. So each noun should be described, defined. Even if it is obvious, known, define it, and enable each verb. Each verb, whether it is possible for an average skilled person to understand how he will practice it. I think with that, I will end you. Thank you very much. Thank you for the questions.